The best moments in climbing happen when people doubt themselves and they don't know what's possible and they push themselves beyond what they thought they could do. And hopefully you're there with a camera to cover it.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Struggle Climbing Show. It's me, Ryan Devlin. I hope you're awesome. I hope you are having a fantastic day and a fantastic season. And it's about to get even better because Jon Glassberg is our guest today. And Jon, both in front of and behind the camera, has been on the cutting edge of climbing performance for decades now. Like, do you wonder what goes through the minds and the bodies of the top climbers in the world? Well, Jon brings those stories and those insights and those answers to this conversation. He was with Janja for every single session as she worked on and got heartbreakingly close and then ultimately kind of hiked Bibliographie, one of the hardest routes in the entire world, rated 515C or 9B+, and he brings incredible insights from those sessions that she had out there and some really, really fascinating behind-the-scenes stories that I had never heard before, and that, in fact, nobody has ever heard before until now. We do a deep dive into Janja's ascent of Bib, and then we explore some of the other incredible athletes that he's worked with, in particular, a couple films that have deeply impacted me. Girl Climber with Emily Harrington. Of course, it follows her historic ascent of the Golden Gate Route of El Cap and features her husband, Adrian, and, of course, Alex Honnold, and a lot of behind-the-scenes insights on that one. And then another film that absolutely ripped my heart out in the best possible way, and that's called Strength to Wait, and it features Ethan Pringle in a very personal story that I'll let Jon tell you about as we get into this episode. But it is so beautiful, and I think the hallmark of what Jon, as the creative force and founder of Louder Than 11, the production company that he runs now with his wife and a small team, and a couple kids now that are along for the ride, that really defines the filmmaker that Jon is and has evolved into over the last couple of decades now. And that is that he's not just documenting the raddest stuff in our sport. He is doing that, and he's been on the cutting edge of performance documentation for decades now, but he really also has found a way to use his camera to see inside of climbers, to see where their hearts are at, their emotions, their minds, their struggles, their fears, and ultimately the tapestries of what these humans are as they're trying to push our sport forward. And that, I think, is a very worthwhile discussion and exploration, and one that we dive into here today, along with Jon's personal story of being on the forefront of climbing for decades himself. He was a sponsored climber. He's a really strong climber. And so we talk about his early Dirtbag days, his first time with a camera and documenting things, and then also the evolution and revolution of climbing documentation and filmmaking. We could have talked for hours. And in fact, the conversation does go on for those who are supporting the show as a Patreon member or Apple subscriber. We've got a banger bonus episode. I'll tell you more about that on the backside, along with my personal climbing. I just went out climbing yesterday and had a really, really good day. It was a struggle fest, but it was also really good. I'll tell you about that on the backside as well. But right now, let's just get those lights, cameras, and actions going here with Jon Glassberg. Jon, it's good to talk to you, man. How are you?
Good. How are you? Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm psyched to be here.
Likewise. And of course, before I hit record here, we were both just talking through the struggle of parenthood and all the things. It's summer vacation here, and so my kids are on break. Normally they're at school, but your kids are too young for school. Did you say they're 3.5?
Yeah, we have 3.5-year-old twin daughters, and as you can imagine, it's total chaos. And we travel with them, and they go everywhere with us, and they're just on this journey with us until they have an opinion about not being a part of it, which might happen eventually.
Well, I mean, if there's one thing I've learned, kids will always have an opinion, my friend, and it's usually opposite of whatever I want to do or whatever I want to be doing, but that's part of them figuring out who they are. But how cool for you guys to be able to take them around the world. They've certainly, at this point in time, at 3.5 years, probably been to more countries than I've ever been to, and most others as well. What they remember, well, you're not sure, but I bet you've got some pretty good documentation of it.
They remember some stuff. I mean, we'll take some pictures and videos, and hopefully they'll really remember it down the road and reminisce. I mean, yeah, they're about to tick their 11th and 12th country as 3.5-year-olds this summer, so that'll be kind of fun. But man, it's like it's kind of sweet traveling with them, but also you're usually when you are on a shoot or you're out climbing or whatever you're doing for the day, when you're away from them and they're, hanging with the nanny at home, you come back and you're like used to decompressing and like, I don't know, dealing with photo and video material and like backing up media and like repacking and charging and like doing all the stuff that you do when you're done with a shoot, and you're like doing that with like kids running around screaming and like smashing into you and like doing their own thing. There's no rest. It's just like nonstop. So it's been a pretty crazy few years, but we're making it work.
As long as they don't grab the hard drive and drop it in a bucket of slime or apple juice, I feel like all is okay.
Yeah, I'm very protective. I'm like making a barrier around my laptop while I'm backing up media every time.
Triple backups. Cool, man. Well, I figured we could go through this whole thing. Originally we wanted to have Jess joined as well, but I totally understand the zone defense when it comes to parenting, and we'll have her back on. Maybe we can, pin her down for a half hour and get her perspective on some things here. But you've got such a long history as a climber and a very talented climber. And then, of course, on the Louder Than 11 side and the media side, just putting out some of the absolute best content in climbing and really beyond when we're talking about like Girl Climber as a feature film that really expands beyond the climbing world and just telling compelling stories. Strength to Weight, which is an Ethan Pringle focused film that you and Jess did recently that just like ripped my heart out and blew it into 1,000 pieces. It's just so beautiful. And so, it's not just send footy. And so there's, a whole arc of things to talk about there. First of all, congratulations, man. Congratulations on everything you guys got going on. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the grind. It's an endless hustle, and I don't know, the climbing and filmmaking game it's a weird one. I think it's always changing and evolving, and we're just trying to do the best we can all the time. Like, I think it's a job, but it's also like I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it, and this was the dream from day one. So I mean, I feel lucky to be able to do it day in and day out, and also for people to watch our films and look at our photos and get inspired and psyched. I mean, that's all that I really ever wanted.
Hell yeah. That's so cool. Just the way that you've been able to connect with climbing in so many different ways, from competition to just like really epic adventures out on rocks, sufferfests, and breakthrough events, breakthrough moments that have happened in our sport. In fact, you and I were just talking about how you were recently out in Sayus with Janja, and I'm assuming this was covering her historic ascent of Bibliographie.
Yeah, I've been shooting with Janja since like 2024, 23.
And like epic series of stuff kind of leading up to Paris as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, we did like a thing for Adidas, kind of pre-Olympic content, some like cool long form interviews and a bunch of, traveling with her to different places. And we even went to like Fontainebleau for like a day where she did the Big Five in like a couple hours, and it was amazing. So yeah, we kind of started that journey with her. But then right after the Paris Olympics, we went to Sayus for the first time with her. She was kind of investigating a project there and wanted to try bibliography, heard it might be her style. She wanted to try the hardest routes in the world and see how she measured up. And I mean, I was just working on the edit this morning. Like, I mean, we've been there for every single day and every try on bibliography, which is pretty cool, over 5 trips and 3 years worth of trying. So a lot of effort and a lot of cool documentary coverage of her experience and like the highs and lows of trying the hardest routes in the world. I mean, it's awesome. Just having like access to Janja and being able to hang with her and shoot with her and like see who she is as a person and how like the goat ticks is really amazing. Like, man, she is like on a different level, and it's totally inspirational. Like, having grown up in the climbing world in the 90s and like, like 515 didn't even exist until, the early 2000s. And then now like people are climbing it like it's nothing. It's totally crazy to me. Like, and just watching the level right now is so remarkable, and documenting it is the coolest. I want to be at the cutting edge of, climbing performance and document it. And it's really special to do that.
So cool. And I love that all of this with Janja, especially as you're like diving into the catalog of footage, is going to be quite fresh for you, because I'd love to unpack and explore her and her process on that, but also you spent so much time with her on comps, and she's the greatest competitive climber in history. And so lots to explore about Janja. But first I want to just take it back a little bit and look at you as a climber. and also you as a filmmaker. I always enter these conversations through the lens of struggle. And so this will be a two-pronged one for you, Jon. First of all, as a climber, through the lens of climbing, what does struggle mean to you? What's your relationship with struggle?
Well, I mean, I guess we didn't have a lot to measure up against back in the day. You know, like I started climbing in 1994 and,
How old were you?
I was 11, just turning 11.
Yeah, so that's pretty early. Like back then in the 90s, like I feel like you got introduced to the sport quite early on. A lot of people didn't start until their teens or maybe even 20s, back at that day.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't really that much going on in terms of like teams or organization around like youth climbing. I mean, I started climbing in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is like a nothing climbing town. There's not much there. There was a teeny tiny gym called Rocky Top. It was basically like a converted racquetball court with hardwood floors. I mean, it was pretty hardcore. It was like top roping gym, but we would boulder in there and stuff. But like bouldering wasn't really a thing back then. So it was kind of like experimenting with what was possible. And we were mostly just sport climbing. We were 3 hours from the New River Gorge. So every weekend we would be at the New climbing sport routes and trad routes. So just kind of like learning that experience. I had some like mentors very early on that were like older climbers. And, we would go and hook up with college kids and those became climbing partners. And like, I was like 12, 13 years old. Like, my best friends were like 20-something-year-old college kids, and we were just going to the New River Gorge and going climbing. And I mean, it was just like, I don't know what they were thinking with me as a kid, but it was really fun for me. It shaped me as a climber.
We had a weekend warrior on this episode, Doug Hartman, who I think you guys trained back in that the racquetball gym. Just brought something to mind there.
Yeah, that was my guy. I mean, Doug was my like climbing partner through when he was in college and med school at UVA. I was like a, middle school, high schooler. And
he was one of the college guys. Okay.
Yeah. And so we would just go to the New River Gorge and go climbing together, and we would train in the gym and do whatever. I had a little woody in my basement of my house that I built, like much to my parents' chagrin, but we would, we'd find river rocks and stuff, and we would like drill them out and bolt them to the wall. And like, we didn't have climbing holds. Like it was like Russian gym, Rocky style down there, like underground. I remember actually Doug was an RA at his like dorm room area, and one year they were cleaning out the dorm mattresses were all getting thrown away. And so we went and we collected like 20 of these like single dorm mattresses, and we put them in the basement of my house so that it would made the floor for the climbing gym. And it was like the nastiest thing. It was so dirtbag, but we went and collected all these mattresses with Doug, and like, oh, it was awesome.
Those mattresses have some stories to tell, man. College mattresses. You guys were brave for
it was as gross as it gets. Yeah, it was gross.
So you were, cutting your teeth early on, just kind of however you could. You got the psych and got some mentorship from Doug and others.
Yeah.
And then what was the inflection point for you where you really started to take climbing seriously and get out on bigger adventures?
I mean, I was taking climbing pretty serious as a, sport climber in my teenage years, but I think things really changed. I took a year off between high school and college just to travel, and I loaded up in my van with my other college-age climbing friend named Nate Nawanowski, and we traveled the US and Canada for about a year in my Mazda MPV. And we built like a little like sleeping platform inside it. This is like 2002. So it was pretty dirty and dirtbaggy, and we were just like, I don't know, I think I saved up like $1,500 or something like that, and we just went on the road, and I think that's basically what I spent in a year of traveling. So we were keeping it real cheap, eating dented canned food in Yosemite, and I was working a little bit in Squamish, and like just trying to like really just go climbing every day. That's what we wanted to do. And so that was a big change for me. I mean, it was like the beginning of adventure and climbing hard and taking climbing seriously. But then in 2003, I moved to Boone, North Carolina. And that is kind of the inflection point for me when bouldering became the focus. Like bouldering was really not hot back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, it really started exploding in the early 2000s. And I was just like beside myself with how much rock there was in Boone to go climbing on. That was bouldering. And I just like got obsessed with it. I started taking everything I could get my hands on. And that was also like a weird time where I went from like probably like a casual V8, V9 climber to climbing like every, 10, 11, 12 I could find. And it just like happened. Like it was a total shift. Like suddenly I was like, oh, I climb V12 now. And I started climbing like every single thing I could get my hands on. And it was by far the most fun I ever had in climbing because I had like leveled up in a really exciting way and realized like my potential. I was also like growing. I went from like 5'6" all the way through to my senior year of high school. And then I grew basically like a foot. And now I'm like, 6'3", and I'm like this huge new dude in this new body. And I'm like, oh my God, what can I do with this? And I was working in Boone at a logging company. And I went from like scrawny 160 pound, nobody to like kind of jacked, muscly 190 pound dude working in a lumber yard and like a logging facility, like going bouldering every day. And I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like, this is who I am. And like, this is really fun. And I was working to make money to climb every day. I was working the night shift at this logging company and I would climb during the day and log at night. It was a crazy life.
Dude. Yeah, there's plenty of struggle in there, just in terms of burning it on both ends. But the psych was so high. And at this point in time, were you a sponsored climber?
Yeah, right at the beginning of college at App State, I got sponsored by Evolve, and I was getting like, pads and stuff from Pusher way back in the day. I guess cordless is what they were called back then. And just like, little things here and there to kind of make ends meet, but definitely not making any money from it. It was like free shoes and, a pad once a year if I like begged for it. But then that kind of changed through college. I was doing a lot of competitions and stuff like in high school, college time. So like going to, USA climbing events. Back then they were JCCA climbing events and doing like all the competitions that I get my hands on just to, see how I stacked up against other people in the field. And then like, I think I realized that outdoor climbing was my passion and that's where I wanted to, focus my efforts. And developing and climbing new boulders in the Boone area in North Carolina became like a big focus. And then also like going on these trips every summer, I would end up in Colorado and go climbing in Rocky Mountain National Park and Mount Evans, Mount Blue Sky now, and would just like rage every summer with my friends and try as hard as we could on the newest cutting edge boulders in Rocky Mountain. Because Rocky Mountain was basically like a never ending supply of like V12, V13 test pieces that were like the coolest, hardest climbs around. And the season was summer. And we would, me and my friends would just post up in Colorado and live the dream every summer. And then back to school for the school season.
So then at this time, were you doing any documenting of climbing, or when did that start to come in, both with photography and videography?
Yeah, so early 2000s was kind of like a big paradigm shift in photo and video as well. It went from analog to digital, and the internet exploded with potential for posting photo and video online. So like in, I don't know, maybe 2004 or 5 range is kind of when digital SLRs hit the scene. And suddenly you didn't have to process film in a darkroom anymore, which was super annoying and time consuming and expensive. And you could just take these photos and post them online instantly. This is kind of before Instagram. So we were like posting on websites that we would build or on like MySpace and like, stuff like that back in the day.
Right.
And then at the same time, when digital SLRs happened, so did like the video revolution digitally. You could take like a Canon, camera and you could shoot photos and videos. And then those digital videos you could work on editing that night, and you could post like a Ascent video the next day of something that you climbed in Rocky Mountain, like it was so easy and fast. And at that same time also was YouTube and Vimeo kind of hit the scene. And I was, shooting with myself, and I was shooting myself climbing a lot, but also all of our friends that were pro climbers. And we were just posting videos on YouTube and Vimeo and social media as it started to happen. And this digital thing was happening. It was kind of just like, it was like this moment, And it was just right place, right time. And my skill set kind of matched the need. And I was super motivated to just start posting stuff on the internet. And that's when we started Louder Than 11 around 2007, 2008. And yeah,
you started this yourself? This was before you met Jess.
Yes, I met Jess in 2017. I started Louder Than 11 with a friend of mine at the time named Jordan Shipman, who was a climber who lived in North Carolina, who also recognized that I was out there shooting and climbing a ton and wanted to find an outlet for that, and like kind of a more of like a central voice for how we would promote these things and talk about things and also do video and photo projects. And then really quickly, we became kind of I would say like the media management company for USA Climbing. So we basically started doing everything for USA Climbing, whether it was photo and video coverage of events to live broadcasts of nationals to providing live broadcast services to World Cups that came to the US. And that lasted for about a decade. So we were basically doing all social media, all digital assets, everything for USA Climbing for almost 10 years.
That's amazing. I mean, to be able to get like a steady gig like that from, I mean, I know there's not a ton of money in climbing at that time, or even today for that matter, but still to have that must have been very validating for where you were at.
Definitely validating, not validating for my bank account. I would say we actually didn't start making money, like putting money in the bank and being like, oh, we can pay ourselves, probably until 2018, 2019. I mean, this was a long time, 10 years at least before we were like, oh yeah, we're making it, you know? we were also part of an evolving industry that at first probably, you know, couldn't really handle that much photo and video material. I mean, we were also in that transition period when print magazine was really big still and kind of phasing out. I went to school for print media and photo and business. And, you know, suddenly there was no print media anymore. And right. I was like, oh no, that's not a thing anymore. I need to kind of pivot and like, you know, find a new way to make ends meet. And that was, you know, digital, that was video, that was making things available for people for free online. That was always kind of the mantra is free, whether you like it or not. It was out there.
This episode is supported by Scarpa, and y'all know that I love Scarpa. I've been climbing in their stuff for more than a decade, long before I had this podcast, and I just want to tell you quickly about the two shoes that I'm wearing the most right now in this moment with my training and climbing, and that's an indoor pair, the Furia Airs, feather light, incredibly versatile. They perform really well on the gym sets, like if I'm doing coordination or comp style boulders where I need to smear on volumes or do some run and jumps and that kind of thing. But then they also perform incredibly well on the boards. So I'm kicking my kilter board back to like 50 degrees right now. They toe in like a dream. They're so comfortable to wear. It's crazy how comfortable they are. So the Furia Airs, I'm wearing a lot indoors, and then outdoors, I'm wearing my Instinct VSR LVs. I love the entire Instinct line. They make a shoe for everybody, and they're incredibly popular. Like so many pros wear Instincts indoors and out, and you'll see them. Just like scroll Instagram and you're going to see the Instincts. But these Instinct VSR LVs that Nathaniel Coleman helped to design have been fitting my foot really well for heel hooks and heel toe cams, and then just toeing into like steep pockets that I'm climbing at the red. So depending on what you need, what your climbing needs are, I highly, highly recommend the Furia Airs, as well as anything in the Instinct line. They're so good. Let me know what you think. I'd genuinely love to hear your feedback. I'm telling you, if you try on one of these pairs of shoes, they're going to become your new favorite pair of shoes. You can learn all about them over on their website. I'll put that link down there. Scarpa, no place too far. This episode is supported by Arc'teryx, and all you have to do is take a look at the Arc'teryx team to know that Arc'teryx does it right. They make incredible gear for hiking, climbing, adventuring, whatever you need to do. Arc'teryx has got you covered. And as a climber, I am loving their new Lithos harness, which is made for sport climbing. It's ultralight. Jonathan Seacrest helped to design it. It's incredibly comfortable. And they have a new sizing system where you can not only customize like the waist size of the harness itself, but also the leg loops, the width of the leg loops and the length of the leg loops. It's all over there on the website. So when you order a harness, you are ordering it to your exact specifications. So it's incredibly comfortable. You don't even know you're wearing it. And then if you're sitting around a lot in it like I am, taking a lot of falls and working on a project, It's incredibly comfortable. I'm also loving right now, because it's the summertime, all of their gear that has sun protection worked in. So they've got sun hoodies and sun shirts. I'm wearing those a lot when I'm hiking outdoors, even just like hanging out with the kids outside. You can see their entire lineup of gear. I'm going to put a link down there. Arc'teryx does it right. And if you have any chance to get out to Squamish this August, the Arc'teryx Academy is happening. Their pro team's going to be there. They're doing clinics. There's a main stage where Chris Kalous and I are going to be doing some podcast interviews live, doing some giveaways, and then screening films. It is such an incredible event there in Squamish at the end of August. I'll put a link down there for the Academy as well, and I hope to see you out there.
To your credit, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but you were able to create a lot of content, make a lot of connections, not make any money, but you were at a point in life where maybe you didn't need a lot of money. And then you built this thing up, which is, very impressive. I think it's easy to look at like where you're at, or, Jimmy Chin is like maybe the biggest example of somebody who kind of dirtbagged it for a long time and then just like hit it big. And it's not an overnight success. It's like really cutting your teeth for years and years and years and building relationships and skills and connections to then be able to get the media out there. And now here you are, like you are creating a lot of fantastic content. You've got big clients, you work with brands, you work with huge athletes, as we've already noted. But what's like just kind of a snapshot of the hustle right now? Because I know, you're still grinding, no doubt, but you've established yourself as a really reputable creative agency and content company and photographer, videographer. And so like what is life professionally for you now?
I mean, it's still a grind every day. I mean, I definitely went into this knowing that I would be in this industry for the rest of my life. I mean, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be doing, is working really hard and improving my game every day. I think like, right now the day to day is making films, both long and short, and having a ton of different projects in a variety of different phases, whether it's...
And just like, sorry to interject, but yeah, probably good for the audience to understand how the creative pipeline works. Are you being commissioned by a brand, for example, to create something, and so you have a budget and a timeline and a deadline, or are you going out and shooting things on spec and then trying to sell them maybe after the fact to a brand or a media outlet?
Everything you're saying, plus every other option that you could imagine. I mean, basically, like the game is have good relationships with people at brands and have like those are obviously awesome because you're going to get hired by companies to do work. But, we're also friends with a lot of the pro climbers, and we want to make the coolest, most cutting edge, interesting stuff. And so we want to be, right there with everybody when it's happening. So a lot of times, like we'll call someone up and be like, hey, what are you working on? What's happening? Like, we want to shoot with you. You're inspiring. Your story's inspiring. Let's make something, or let's document something that's amazing that you're pushing yourself really hard to achieve. That could be any number of things.
And then you're bankrolling that in that sense. You're kind of, you're placing a bet on yourselves to do this. And maybe they send it and maybe they don't, but you're out the money regardless.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, a good example of that might be something like working with Hamish MacArthur, for example, on Megatron. Like, he came to us and he was like, hey, like, we're around, let's shoot something. And I was like, cool, what are you trying? He's like, oh, I'm trying Megatron. I feel like I maybe could do it. So we're like, sure, we'll come out and shoot some stuff and see how it goes. Like, day one, you go out and you check it out and you see what's possible, and you start to cover the moment and make sure that you don't miss the send, which is really important. But you're also gambling a little bit, and you're kind of hoping that something will pay off and that there'll be some struggle there so that it's not just smashing the route and that's it.
Yeah, if you had showed up for No One Mourns the Wicked, it wouldn't have been nearly as an interesting film as the Megatron one was, which was fantastic, by the way. And obviously Hamish is a very creative guy. I'm sure there's a big like kind of collaborative process that you all had on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're collaborating with anybody that you're working with to make a film. I mean, you're also asking them to let you into a really emotional and vulnerable place to be around for all of those highs and lows. I mean, working with Janja, for example, for 3 years on documenting her climbing bibliography, like plenty of highs and lows and lots of frustration and lots of, excitement and lots of close calls and lots of tears and stuff, that come along with any of those projects. But also like I think a lot of climbers have their own little secret sauce that they don't maybe want to reveal right away. So, being friends with these people and like getting close to these climbers and being able to document the actual real moments is really special. And then also turning it around and making something creative that people want to watch and that's interesting and new and pushes us as filmmakers and photographers and storytellers in this world is all really interesting to me. I mean, I'm definitely like a multitasker and I can do a lot of things all at once, but I like to kind of have lots of projects in the pipeline that are different phases and different levels of creative investment at any given time. When you're making feature films like Girl Climber, for example, those types of movies take a lot of time and a lot of energy spread out over a really long period of time. And so you're kind of like checking in with the project all the time and working on it all the time in different phases. Whereas, if you're shooting a commercial, for example, you might be on a commercial set for 2 days and that's it. And then it goes off to an editor and that's done. You're kind of wiping your hands and walking away.
Right.
So yeah, there's lots of different phases of things. And these types of projects, they come in different ways. And, you kind of just take what you can get when you can get it, for sure. But you're also chasing the stories that inspire you. Like, I'm working on probably 2 or 3 projects with athletes at any given time that are maybe gambles, maybe not. Like with Ethan Pringle, for example, we were shooting with him for 2 different seasons in Yosemite on his projects, which he was not successful on. So it never made it in the movie. So yeah, it just depends. On Meltdown, yeah.
Yeah. He got so heartbreakingly close, and you guys were probably out there for it, because I spoke with him about it when I had him on this show, and then we've kept in touch. We spent some time out here in Kentucky when he was out here for Oktoberfest as well. And yeah, he had it like, it seemed like just so dialed, but then it didn't happen, and it will happen. But it's interesting, just on a creative element of that, you ultimately decided that wouldn't work well with the narrative of the story that you were in. I mean, oftentimes we try things and we don't do them. Of course, it makes for a better climax if we do the thing, but you switched to Blackbeard's Tears, I guess, was that kind of the Send project that you then focused on in that film, or was there a different reason that Meltdown didn't make sense? Or are you just holding on to it until he does send it?
I mean, I have a Send video of him doing it, basically. I mean, we could cut it right now if we wanted to. I actually, that's kind of funny. This is a side story, but I have like an amazing Send video that I cut of Tommy Caldwell climbing Magic Line, but then he was really close to doing it, and then he like tore his Achilles and didn't go back and didn't finish it. So I'm kind of like, hey, Tommy, I'm always like in his DMs, can you go like send Magic Line, please? I want to put this video out. It's sick. So
it's like, the hair is just a little bit grayer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we chose not to use the Meltdown footage just because it didn't really fit. We ended up using the footage of him climbing. I think he called it, oh gosh, what did he call that V12?
Oh, Deep Impact.
Deep Impact, yeah. Which he like, this is insane. I hope it is conveyed in the film, but like, I mean, it's like a 35-foot high ball with a crux at like 20 something feet. I mean, it's very serious 514 sport climb over pads on top of cardboard boxes for a landing, which is like futuristic and cool. And so that became our climax, because we really wanted to like see Ethan in his, natural habitat in Yosemite where he really shines, and also like him kind of combining all of his skills as a climber, as a, deep water soloing, bouldering, sport climbing. It's kind of the culmination of all of those skills in one climb, which is kind of cool. Yeah. And just to see him like really push himself high above the ground with, these boxes for landing is super fun.
I will say this about the film, and I'd love to now start to explore some of the things that you and Jess and the team have done with regard to Strength to Weight, which is the name of this film that we're talking about here with Ethan Pringle, which has just been going around doing some film festivals and some screenings. You were gracious enough to share a copy of it with me, so I watched it just yesterday.
Nice.
And I mean, as I mentioned earlier on, I mean, it just kind of ripped my heart into a million pieces and then put it back together a couple sizes larger. I think the narrative of it was really beautiful, and how vulnerable Ethan was with it. And so to the listener, it kind of follows this parallel journey of Ethan working with some kind of emotional baggage and trauma and relationship issues with his dad, and how that can impact our climbing and vice versa. And it's a film that's not just about sending like the latest, raddest highball in Yosemite. That's one of the pieces that kind of carries us through, but there are other pieces as well. And so I want to congratulate you on that film because I think it's just absolutely beautiful, and I highly recommend everybody to see it whenever you have an opportunity to. But I am curious, when you come into a project like that, it's not just like, hey, Ethan, what are you working on? I mean, obviously there's a very clear story here, bookended by the kind of the memorial services for his father. And so how does a project like that come together?
We entered that project years and years ago, not sure exactly how big of a deal it would be or how long the film would be, but really just interested in telling Ethan's story. I've known Ethan for a really long time. We were both on the Mountain Hardwear team as sponsored athletes together, and we did a lot of stuff together as, climbing friends, whether it was shoots or trips or climbing together. And I knew that, his story was remarkable and interesting and compelling and different and all the things that you want for like a good feature film. And he was definitely going through it with his dad. His dad had a stroke 10 years before he eventually passed. So Ethan was the primary caretaker for his dad during this time that he was in, assisted living. So Ethan felt an obligation to be there for his dad, like visiting him often in California. And as a pro climber, also simultaneously traveling the world and peaking at his like best as a climber, like climbing his hardest boulders, climbing his hardest trad routes, establishing the hardest trad routes in the world, climbing 9B. This is insane. Like he climbed Jumbo Love while his dad was, post stroke. So I think a lot of this like culminated around near the end of his dad's life. We knew that we wanted to cover it and document it a little bit to tell that story. And we knew that Mountain Hardwear would be a good partner for this because, we had talked with them about doing a project with Ethan and what a film with Ethan might look like, and kind of got like a soft green light to go do it. And so we just invested in Ethan and his story and actually covered a lot of the pivotal moments for him, which was, his dad's death, the memorial that kind of shaped that experience for him, and also spreading his dad's ashes in all these amazing places like Yosemite and Cayuse, and just seeing him go through that process as a son. I think Jess and I really wanted to create a film that accurately portrayed like masculinity and the father-son relationship and how, sons are shaped by their fathers, but also, it's special when they're supportive of you as a climber. And I think this was like really cool with Ethan and his story because his dad was there for like a lot of it at the very beginning. And he was filming him and like, him and his mom were there like documenting it the whole time. It was really, really cool.
I loved the archival footage that you got that carried us through part of the film, and certainly in the earlier part of the film, of Ethan, of his dad kind of narrating the climb and being like, come on, and being all supportive. And then Ethan, whose voice hadn't changed yet, like blowing off of a hold and being like, fuck shit, fuck. And his dad's like, your mom's going to watch this. It's just so endearing and amazing, dude. Like I just loved it so much how you worked that throughout. And then also this narrative device that you all put in there, which were these voice messages from Ethan's dad that I was like crying my eyes out when I was watching this film. And I think it's because it hit close to home because I've been taking care of my father lately after he got sick, and fortunately he's doing a lot better now, but we went through this period of time where I was like really his primary caregiver and like helping him to shower and these like very kind of intimate things and that you see in the film of Ethan helping his dad after he had a stroke. And then these voice messages, this just like these beautiful little moments that are also heartbreaking because his father's going to pass away, but how you sprinkled them throughout, it just brought this film like to a totally different level for me. I have no question. I just want you to know that it really resonated for me.
I think it resonates for a lot of people. I could speak to my own experience. My dad spent 10 years of his life with Alzheimer's, and he recently passed as well. And I can absolutely relate to that experience. I was not his primary caregiver, but I can totally relate to feeling like torn between being with him and spending time with him, but also wanting to climb and travel and have a family and do all the things that take you away from that primary caregiver role. It's just crazy hard to deal with a father that is going through it. And you're seeing that happen. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Certainly everyone has a father, whether you're a daughter or a son. I mean, it's really just like understanding what it's like to care for someone that can't care for themselves anymore and what that does to you as a person and how it shapes your perspective on life. And I think one thing that Ethan told me that really resonated with me was that, he really wanted people to feel how much, love he experienced in the long run. Love for himself, love for the world around him, love for his friends. And I think he went through it. I think he changed as a person drastically in those years. And you get to really see that in the video because he kind of breaks open emotionally and you see that happen and you see him going through it, which is really special. I mean, it's hard to go through that on camera too, but he did. And I thought it was really emotional. It was really brave of him. And it was really cool for him to let us be there and document it. 'Cause those moments are really hard, and they're made even harder when someone's got a camera in your face and they're asking you questions. So I really appreciated his vulnerability and his willingness to be a part of this because it's special. I mean, you don't get to do that more than once on camera. And also his story is remarkable. And not to mention, he was like totally smashing all over the world. Right. The hardest routes in the world. I mean, in this film, you get to see him climb the Nest, which was his first V15. You get to see him as a kid climbing his first 514. You get to see him establishing like one of the world's hardest travel routes, Blackbeard's Tears. And then obviously climbing Jumbo Love with the context of like how much he was going through in that caretaker role while also like, trying to send his hardest. It takes so much to do that emotionally. So yeah, just a lot of really special moments in his life captured around the context of his dad's stroke and being a caretaker. It's really special.
I just want to take a quick second to tell you about this new stick clip that I'm using and have been field testing for months now, and it's called the Spire Clip. It was just started by a climber named Blake, and I saw this thing out at the crag, and I asked my buddy, I was like, what is that? And he told me about the Spire Clip, and I was like, I have to get one. So I got one, I've been testing it, and now here I am hooking Blake up with an ad for free because I love this thing so much. It is genuinely a huge improvement in stick clips. So if you climb routes, whether it's indoors or out, you're obviously using a stick clip to clip up the first bolt or two to start the route safely. And the biggest pet peeve that I have, and you probably have with stick clips, is that either the poles are wobbly and the links break or don't work, so now you're like duct taping your stick clip links together, or it's a huge bulky painter's pole that's heavy and hard to pack away. So Blake fixed that with the Spire Clip by designing a pole that's made out of carbon fiber and uses aluminum locks between the sections. So this thing is ultra light, ultra stiff, and ultra long. It extends up to 15 feet is the one that I have. So I can basically clip the anchors on some of the routes that I'm climbing. So he really solved the pole issue, which was huge, but the real magic is in the head. The Spire Clip head is an absolute evolution over any other stick clip head that's out there. You can easily hang a draw. You can easily clip a rope through the draw. The rope never gets tangled. He's got this really cool technology that will hold a rope in place without you having to wrap ends or loops around the top of the stick clip. If you're familiar with that, like with a super clip, you know what I'm talking about. And then there's a hook that's built in so you can guide the rope down after you've climbed a route. And then you can easily remove a draw from a first or second bolt just by twisting it off like you're twisting up some spaghetti. Man, do I love this Spire Clip. I'm doing a free ad because I love it so much. I get nothing out of this. And Blake's hooking you guys up because you can use code STRUGGLE at checkout to get $10 off your order. I'm just a huge fan of it. Well done, Blake. You can learn more over at thestruggleclimbingshow.com/spire. All right, y'all, just want to take a quick second here to tell you about how I am keeping track of all of my workouts and also all of my assessments, like my fitness measurements here as a climber, and that is using the Intentional Climber app. You've probably heard me talking about this. I'm one of the co-creators of the Intentional Climber app. I've been working on it for over a year now, And I'm so proud that it's now out there and people are using it. In fact, people in over 30 countries are using Intentional Climber right now, which is friggin' awesome. The feedback has been so positive. People are feeling more motivated, more accountable, and just staying on track with their training and climbing. And that's because the app works. It was designed for busy climbers like you and me to be able to organize our training, our thoughts, our reflections, and our metrics in a way that will help us to improve session over session so we aren't just spinning our wheels. And so one of the things that I've been using a lot of is the assessments tab. And in there, you can test your finger strength, your critical force, your finger endurance, and then a bunch of other general fitness metrics. And then it charts out kind of where I'm at, where I'm going, and that lets me know what I want to work on. So critical force has been a big focus of mine lately, and I've just programmed an entire training block around the results that I got from my critical force test. Anyway, you can check it out for free and just see if it's an app that helps you to organize your training and your climbing in a way that helps you bust through plateaus and level up like it has for me. You can download it over on the App Store or Google Play just by searching Intentional Climber, or we'll put a link right down there in your show notes. And if you use code STRUGGLE when you sign up, you're going to get a $99 finger training program from Coach Chris Hampton absolutely for free, just for checking it out. No obligation. You can learn more over at intentionalclimber.com. You know, another film that I am familiar with, and I actually just watched a second time before we connected here because I wanted to refresh myself on it, and that was Girl Climber.
Nice.
And I've interviewed Emily a few times. I've stayed at, she and Adrian have been gracious enough to let me crash at their place in Vegas when I've been out there. And then I was able to pay them back, and they stayed at my cabin when they came out here to the Red, which was cool. So, you know, it's been very nice to get to know them personally, but to see Girl Climber was really to be kind of an intimate part of this journey that they've been on. And I think everybody knows kind of the end result of Emily being the first woman, and only I think at the time the third or fourth person, the fourth person I think to do Golden Gate in a day. So an incredible athletic feat, which was far from certain when she took that one on. And I think you told that story very well, especially with, you can always get Cedar right for a candid line where he's like, oh, I gave her 20% or, you know, whatever it was that he said there. But, you know, I mean, it was an incredible journey for her as an athlete. And that right there is worth watching the film because it's so freaking impressive. But then what stood out to me the second time in viewing, more so maybe than the first one, where I was like so enthralled with like the climbing and the journey of it, was this just relationship story with her and Adrian and how they're both doing kind of risky things and they're off places and they're talking about having a family. At the time, Arrow hadn't been born. But of course, you kind of end the film with that incredible bookend there, which is really beautiful. But just like the support and the scene that got me on this one, man, I'm not sure if you were up on the wall there or if it was Jess or somebody else, but it was the Golden Desert pitch, I think, where she hit her head for the second time, you know, like another like head injury. And she basically is like, I can't do it. You know, maybe I'll do it someday. And Adrian's like, you'll do it today. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm bawling. Like the support between the two of them and just like him up there on the wall with her and how intimate that was on the Portaledge, how that was captured. It was just so stunning and beautiful. And I would love to know a little bit more about that moment and anything else that might stand out from that film.
Going into that film, you know, we knew that we were on this journey with Emily to like try to do something that was at her limit. And I don't think that, you know, it is cutting edge in that not many people have done it, but it's definitely not like the greatest accomplishment in climbing history. It's just part of this bigger story of climbing achievements. But we knew that this would be the hardest thing that Emily had ever tried and ever attempted to do, which we knew would shape her as a person and, you know, change the way that she approaches things and life. And I know that, you know, there was this ticking clock of wanting to have a kid. So I know that she was pushing herself really hard before she felt like she would need to take a break from high risk activity to have a kid. And I think that all kind of culminated on the Portaledge when she hit her head and she lowered down. And, you know, I also went down there with her because I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting because, you know, she's bleeding out of her head. She's like having the day of her life. It's like, this should be the day. Let's see what happens on the ledge. And I think, you know, a lot of that experience for her culminated in that moment because I think, you know, you put a lot of yourself into these accomplishments and these goals, and climbing Golden Gate in a day, climbing any free climb on El Cap in a day is a huge mission. It takes a lot of prep, a lot of organization. You need partners, you need weather, you need the time to be there. You can only try so many times in a season. It's exhausting. Like, you have all this other stuff, obligations as an athlete, as a partner. You know, you're putting your life on hold for this mission. And I think that really culminated in that moment that she hit her head on the Golden Desert, because I think she was kind of like, that's it. It's all over. You know, the season's coming to an end. I want to have a family. I want to do these things that are not free climbing El Cap in a day. And I think that all kind of hit her all at once. And I think that her relationship with Adrian is special because he understands that as well. And, you know, he's there with her as emotional support, but he's also, you know, he's able to be a shoulder to cry on, but he can also say, like, hey, like, get your shit together. We're going to do this today. Today's the day. And kind of like push her in that direction in a cool way, which I really respect that. And I think that's really, it's special to have that relationship with someone in the climbing world, because, you know, like, my wife, Jess, is a filmmaker, a photographer, but it's unlikely that she's going to be sitting on the Portaledge next to me belaying and doing those things. Like, that relationship in the climbing world is extra special and adds another layer. It might be frustrating at times, but I think also when someone knows you that well, they can really help you in ways that you didn't realize. So yeah, watching her kind of go through the the emotional turmoil on the ledge was really intense, because I was just watching it unfold. I'm like, is she going to try? Like, does she have it? Like, is today the day? I think everybody was kind of thinking the same thing. She's bleeding out of her head. Does she have a concussion? Like, she had already taken a fall the previous season and, you know, went to the hospital. We were like, God, is this happening again? Are we going to have to do a rescue? Like, we didn't know what was happening. Right. So yeah, she pulled her act together and went for it. And I thought that was really special. And hopefully that was captured well in the film, because that was like a changing moment, a pivotal moment in the scene.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was so well done and so intimate on the Portaledge that I just, you know, I felt like I was there with her and AB. And then, yeah, I mean, the music swells and she does the frickin' thing. And as a filmmaker, I mean, I've got a background in film. I was out in Hollywood for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. And my wife's a screenwriter. And so, like, I've been around filmmaking enough, and documentary filmmaking, reality TV, and all of this, to know that, like, there's certain things that happen that when they're happening, you're like, oh, this is so good. And I'm sure there's a handful of those moments on that film there, but like that scene where those two are on the Portaledge, and then she like charges up to finish it up. Man, it was so beautifully done.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, what's bad for the character is good for the story. I mean, that's like, That's always true. That will always be true, especially if you want to see someone change on camera. That's how it happens, unfortunately. Whether it's your dad having a stroke and becoming the caretaker and him eventually dying, or, you know, being pushed to your physical and mental limit on a really hard project and not seeing a way through. That's another way. I mean,
see, me as I'm not a filmmaker right now, but I'm a podcaster. And so that line that you just said right there, I'm like, oh, that's the pull quote. That's the line I'm going to put at the top of the episode. So good. Thank you for giving that to me, Jon. Yeah. Well, I want to shift and use some of our remaining time here to talk about Janja, because you've spent so much time with her, and she's a little bit of a mystery. She's the one climber I haven't been able to get on my show. I've had everyone else on the show, Jon. We'll have to have a conversation offline about this. Who is it?
Yeah,
Florian?
Good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, she's hard to pin down. I don't know what it is about her, but man, I'm also like, she's huge. Like, she's mega famous, and like, she's like as big as it gets. And so her time is pulled in a lot of directions, and she has a team around her that kind of filters
the team.
That.
It's the team. It's the
I don't think it's any shade on you. I think it's more like, is she even aware that you're trying to get her?
No. She's definitely not aware. If she was aware, we'd be chatting, but no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's the team. I mean, you know, you have a team of gatekeepers, although I've had 3 conversations with Adam Ondra. So at some point in time, we'll make sure we get Janja on here, but we don't need to, because we've got the mind behind the climber right now, or at least the lens behind the climber here to explore. But I want to look at it through some of these projects that you've done. You've spent intimate time with her as a competitive climber, but most recently is this Ascent of Bibliographie. And we were just talking about how what's bad for the character is good for the film. And so Janja, more times than not, will just kind of like casually rock up to the hardest things in the world and do them. And that doesn't tend to make for a great film, but Bibliography was a different story. You're saying this was now spanning 3 years. I think you said you've been out there with her.
Yeah. I mean, Janja is like absolutely the best in the world. And her skill set is, and has been for many, many years, very specifically competition climbing, whether it's bouldering or lead climbing, or even during Tokyo, she like got pretty good at speed climbing. So she's really good at that, which means she's an expert at delivering under pressure and flash attempts or on-site attempts on really hard routes, whether it's in competition or outdoor on rock. Anytime she goes outdoor climbing, like she climbs 8C, 8C plus, 9A in a couple of tries, if not one try. So like her on-site and flash capabilities translate to rock really well. I don't know how many other projects she's had, like really outside of bibliography and Seiyus. So I guess it's like, this is a special, scenario where we're getting to see her like going into new terrain and like really project something and like do something new for herself as a climber and choose something that she knew she wouldn't be able to do in like a few days. And so I think that was really kind of cool because she really wanted to prove to herself that she was capable of climbing the hardest routes in the world. And this is the beginning of that journey. I mean, at the beginning in 2024, when we went to Seiyus for the first time, right after the Paris Olympics, she had not really projected hard outside. And so we got to be there for the first day that she went to Bib and tried it. And like, I was just looking at that footage this morning because I'm working on the edit now. And man, she looked like a noob. It was awesome. Like she didn't know what she was doing when it came to
Really?
like conditions and skin and like weather and like just managing the day. Like her warm up the first day that she went to Seiyus was to get on biography. So like that was not a good idea. So the very first day she walks up there and she like warms up on biography and then tries bibliography right after and is like totally smoked, right? Like has
Right.
nothing left. So she was kind of like learning on camera, which is awesome because you don't often get to see the best in the world like learning. So that was really cool. And we got to be there for 5 different trips where I think over those 5 trips she tried maybe 20 something days, between 20 and 25 days, I would say. And I would say maybe 30-ish attempts, 35 attempts over those 20 days. And so documenting her on that like journey to learn how to climb a hard sport route, but also project and also play the games with, the hike and the conditions and skin and all the other things that she's trying to do. Like she was giving herself like these really small week or 2-week windows to go climb on this route in between like winning World Cups and, going to sponsor obligations and like competing at the Olympics and like all this crazy stuff. So like kind of slotting it in the middle of like all this other stuff that's happening in her life was a big deal. And I think near the end of the process, she was like, okay, I really want to like do this thing now. And so she started playing a little bit smarter with weather and with like which comps she was going to attend so that she could have more time there and not stress about, going to a competition and winning and then going to this project for a week and then failing and, feeling
Right.
like that didn't work. Like this season, she went to China for 2 World Cups back to back. And then she gave herself a big window to go to Seiyus before Innsbruck. So we were kind of like, okay, let's see what she can do. And last year in 2025, she had one really, really good attempt where we had good weather, everything kind of aligned. And she climbed the route up to the crux and a bee flew into her shirt in the middle of the crux. And there's like, this is awesome footage. She's like shaking her shirt out and she's like swatting this bee away in the crux, climbs through the crux. And we're like, oh my God, she's still on. And you get to this rest and she's at this rest for a while. And from the rest to the top is like a 9A sport route. And she just turns it on and goes for it. And she falls on this second to last or third to last move before the jug at the top. So we were like, oh my God, it's possible. So that was really, really exciting because I think she realized then that the goal was within reach and she could definitely do it. And so this year when we went back, I think she was kind of like, okay, like it's time to get it done. I can do it. And we had 2 good weather days total of like 10 days up there, which was really hard because you need wind, you need temps, you need humidity. Like a lot of stuff has to align. You also need to be like on the right rest day before. You need to have good skin. You need like everything needs to work. Like the Goldilocks moment in like high-end sport climbing is so special and hard to find. And that's what everyone's chasing all the time. And so we got one really good day, like 2 days before she had to leave, because she had to go back to Slovenia to train for 2 weeks before Innsbruck, because she had to go win another World Cup. So we were there, and this like second to last day or third to last day, great weather. She was like, this is the day. And like, you could tell like everything, the environment, the mood, the vibes, it was like, it's on. And she climbed through the crux, like no problem. We were like, oh yeah, it's done. And she climbed to the second to last move and fell. And she was really frustrated. Like, I think she was kind of like in her mind, she had decided that was going to happen and that was the day, which is an awesome thing to be able to do as like, you know, a climber like that, like just to say like, it's going down today. So I think she was quite disappointed, and we all extended our trips. Like, you know, it was me and Jess, another filmmaker named Jordy, and 2 other people from Red Bull. Like there's a big crew there. Like it was like a whole thing. We all extended. We were like, okay, it looks good. Saturday looks like the day. And so we went up on Saturday, and, you know, we were just kind of like, let's see what happens. She did between 100 and 100 something and 150 move circuit on the spray wall to warm up. So like humongous like warm up day. And I was filming with Jordy, and we were kind of covering her warm up, and we were like, whoa, like she looks like different today. Something is going on. Like this was like special. They did this. She was on the wall for like 15 minutes. Like, you know, it was crazy. Like she was training, like basically training for a World Cup. And then we walk up to the cliff, and at the cliff, she's like, I think I'm going to warm up on bibliography. We were like, okay, sure. She's like, I'll climb up to the crux and feel like if it feels good, I'll just keep going. We're like, okay. So we're like, okay, she's going to go for it. And she just turned it on, man. And it was like, it was perfect, like flowing. I think you've probably seen the uncut online, like insane flow, looked so easy. Like in the upper crux, like in the 9A head wall section, that's like the red point crux. I thought she took, Jess and I both thought that she just like took on a bolt, like that she sat down because she was resting and like didn't send. And then she was just like flowing. It looked so effortless. It was crazy to watch. And yeah, she just smashed it. And we were like, oh, it's done. It was like kind of uneventful. That's kind of how sport climbing is sometimes. Like it's just kind of done, you know, and it's like the flow was good. Everything like aligned. It was perfect.
Well, I mean, you described it perfectly there. And I love to hear a little behind the scenes of kind of what led up to that moment. And it does sound like she entered that day like absolutely frickin' on a new level, just based on the warm up, and she was ready. But man, that's what struck me too. And I love uncut footy of sport climbing. There's not enough uncut footy of sport climbing out there, young aspiring filmmakers. Yeah. I mean, I think a couple of the rests you guys like took out, but just, you know, no music. We're just watching this incredible athlete do her thing at absolute peak. And what struck me was how flowy and seemingly effortless it was. Obviously there's quite a bit of effort that's happening there, you know, behind the eyes, but there weren't like power screams. There wasn't like, oh, she's sagging away. She just barely latched that, which is also fun to watch, by the way. I also love like, you know, fights, like fight sends and all that. But this thing, man, I feel like she clipped the chain. She could have just done like another 9A right after that. It just seemed like she had so much left in the tank. So yeah, I mean, you were there. What do you think? Is this limit for Janja?
No, not even close. I mean, she wanted to go try, she hasn't done biography yet. She was like, oh, I kind of want to do biography today. And I was like, that's awesome, but we have like 3 hours to shoot photos and video of you. Like, we have to do this. I'm sorry. Come back for biography, please. But yeah, like she has so much more potential. The thing that is the limiting factor for her is weather. It's wind, it's humidity. It's definitely not strength. It's learning how to project more and like take advantage of good opportunities to go send. Like, I think she would have done this climb a year and a half ago if she had had good weather. There was never any question that she could do it. It was more like, will the stars align? Will she get the opportunity to show what she has? That's why comps are so awesome, is because everyone has the same conditions. Everyone has the same moment. They're all challenged in that exact same way. And you get to really see like, what people are capable of in competition. But with outdoor rock climbing, there's so many variables that are hard to nail down that you don't really get the same like comparison. Because it's not really fair to say, oh, Janja is as strong as Adamandra or whatever, right? Because you're never going to compare their size on the same thing in the same day on like a comparable way to measure their strength. But it was very clear to me and everyone watching that she had way more capability and that it really just would come down to finding the route and the conditions and the day for her on something hard. And she could absolutely do it. I mean, the breakdown of the route is like crazy to me. Like I'm a lifelong climber. Like my sport climbing, tops out at like 14A or B, my best day. And the breakdown of the route is like 513 plus into a 17 move, like V13 or 14 boulder problem, which is crazy, into a rest. And then from that rest to the top is a 9A sport route with like a 7B plus at the very, very end. So like an insane breakdown. And I think that she only, like if we asked her to repeat the crux ever, or if she went up and just worked the crux, she would not fall on the crux itself. But from the ground, the crux is pretty hard because you're like a little powered down. You have a little body position's a little different. It's a little different. Plus conditions are a huge factor. But like we were filming with her after she set and we had her do the crux like 3 times in a row. No problem. Just bam, 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 over and over again. And I was like, wow, okay. She's like totally fine with that move. That's not hard at all for her anymore. And you can see the evolution of her like learning the move and like getting better and better at it, like in video. I think the very first day that we filmed with her, she went up to like look at the crux. I think she fell once and then she climbed the crux on her like second try, first day on the wall, which is totally nuts. I mean, that's like very high. That's ultimate like level right there. But yeah, just being able to witness it is so special.
Yeah, and just the fact that you all were there from start to finish, talking about kind of the Gumby stages on those first few days to now being, as professional, as dialed outdoors as she has become indoors, the best in the world. Can you distill down to something stand out for you, whether it's mental or physical, on what you've observed like that really sets Janja apart, that really stands out? Because you've shot with the best in the world for decades now. And so, is there a trait on the mental or physical side, or maybe, both, that you witnessed with her that really stands out?
I think definitely the physical side, since she's been like 9, 10, 11 years old, she's been doing 3 days on, 1 day off. That's it. For, she's 27 now. She's been doing that for 17 years. Like 3 days on, 1 day off. I can barely do day on, day off now as a 42-year-old. But I mean, that level of commitment to training and the capacity, I think you have to understand that over that many years, you just gain this crazy capacity. Like the amount of climbing that she does and the awareness that she has with her body and strength, and when she feels good, when she doesn't, how to do things when you're feeling off or when you're feeling peak. Like that awareness is only something that comes with, the 10,000 hours plus of whatever you're doing. So she is an absolute expert at the highest level in climbing. Like she's just so good at climbing. She might not be great at like knee barring or hand jamming, but like she's a competition climber, and like she is incredible at putting in the time and doing the work. Like I think I don't think people give that enough credit. Like there's plenty of people that like put in time and go to the gym and train hard and try hard, but like it's something special to be able to do that for so many years without getting bored of it or distracted by other things, or like her commitment, her singular commitment to fitness as a climber is unrivaled that I've seen.
Yeah, and just the drive too, because she's won everything a billion times over. Like, I don't know if anybody would have faulted her 5 years ago, if she was just like, I think I'm just going to kind of put it on cruise control. But she seems very driven, regardless of whether she's at the top. She wants to be at a further top, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I think she just wants to win everything all the time. She wants to be the best, which is cool. That's not happening in climbing a lot. I think we see a lot in climbing of competitors like congratulating each other for, their win. And then you'll see them post on social media like, ooh, can't wait to see what happens at the next World Cup, like cheering for my competitors, like psyched to hang with my friends. No, Janja is there to win. Like, she's a winner. And that's cool. I respect that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're the best, be the best. I mean, that's as cool as it gets. Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to win and wanting to be the best. I mean, second place for her is losing. So at this point, if you're not on the top of the podium, it's a failure, I think, for her, which is so badass. I love that.
Hell yeah.
Her mental capacity too is really, really impressive. I mean, when you win that many World Cups, they also kind of like feed off of each other. When you know it's possible and you know you're capable and you know that feeling, it can carry you through a lot. And, she has an amazing coach. Roman, her coach, is like a really special coach in the way that he manages her and her expectations too. I mean, I think that, he's not telling her, you're the best. He's like, we need to work as hard as we possibly can to maintain. And so watching their relationship in the climbing world is so special because he's definitely pushing her to be the best. And they win gold medals all the time. I mean, she's like, potentially days away from winning her 50th gold in a World Cup. I did some calculations the other day. If the World Cups stay exactly the same number of World Cups per year, same number of potential gold medals up for grabs, it would take at least 20 years for another competitor that isn't even born yet to, or maybe they're born, but maybe not competing yet, to match her number of medals. Because if you have 50 golds, I think the closest other competitor ever was Jane Kim with maybe 30 in lead. But to do bouldering and sport climbing and lead climbing competitions and win that many golds, I mean, we're talking 20 years before someone even comes close. And they would have to start now and win from now until then.
All of them. Yeah.
Yeah, every single one, which is not going to happen. I mean, maybe Serato is on that path and we'll see what he can do. But just the level of dominance for so long is so remarkable. And then to see that level go outside and climb on rock is like, it's like the coolest thing ever. Like, I mean, Jakob has been doing that. Adam has done that. You watch these like competition climbers go out and see what they can do on rock. It's amazing. Like when these boulderers go to like Rocklands and like they go like climbing in Rocklands like on a summer vacation for fun, and they climb like every single thing in Rocklands. Like you're like, oh yeah, that's what you do when you're the best climber in the world. Like you put that skill set to work on rock.
It is incredible to see some of the strongest comp climbers move outside and dispatch, long-standing, hardest things. I mean, Hamish, you and I talked about, he went from Megatron to No One Mourns the Wicked and like just kind of went on this tear on some of the hardest boulders in the world. And we see others do that as well. And Janja, you just kind of alluded to earlier when we were talking about this was kind of like her first like significant kind of outdoor project. It seems like she's gone and done some bouldering and that kind of thing. But she really sunk her teeth into bibliography, which is like wild because it's one of the hardest routes in the entire world. But for a majority of that time, she's been juggling competitive climbing. She'll go away, as you said, she'll go to China and win a couple of gold medals and then come back and do the thing. And so do you have a sense, I don't know if you've had a conversation with her about this or not, or if you could even divulge it, but what will the evolution of Janja be? Because she continues to just dominate whatever she wants to do. But like, what is her potential if she's just like, yeah, I think I'm just going to be outdoors now?
I mean, I don't think she's going to just be outdoors now. I mean, she went to China and got second place, so she lost in China.
You're right.
She took 2 big L's, and I think she was really hoping for a win. And I think when we were going into this trip to Soyuz to try bibliography this year, I think that she was like, I really could use a win right now because she's not used to losing. So I think that was really important to her. But, like she wants to go to the LA Olympics. She wants another gold medal. She wants to win everything that she does. I mean, that's going to continue at least until LA. And I don't see any scenario where she doesn't at least go and compete in LA. So I think that is like what she's got her sights set on, and that's her primary motivation. I think after LA, I think you'll see probably a different Janja emerge because she'll have time to dedicate to outdoor projects. I think that, she tried the very first hard route that she tried, like seriously, was La Dura Dura. And I think she was kind of like, I'm not that like inspired by this hard route. It's like glued and manufactured up and down, and it's like doesn't really like inspire me. And then I think when she found Bib, she was like, oh, this is incredible. Like, it's not manufactured at all. It's actually a real rock climb. Nature made this. It's insane. Ethan Pringle bolted it. So cool. I mean, it's just a special route that I think like she saw and was like, oh yeah, this is the one. Because when you're friends with like Jakob and Adam and, you know, Stefano and Jorge and all these people that you're talking to, and you're like, hey, what route am I even capable of doing? And they're like, well, you know, you could try DNA, but you might not be able to reach the holds. Like, it's really reachy. You could try big, but you have to learn how to knee bar. Like, you know, silence whatever you're doing upside down toe hooking. It's like kind of a bummer. I think a lot of people are like talking about this at the highest level, and they're all having conversations about like what's possible for people. And everyone wants to know, like, you know, is this route for me or not? Or should I even be trying it? And so they're all talking, and I think they're all trying to decide what to try next. So that's a cool like world to be in at the top. I mean, you're just like trying to find the next hard thing to do. I think she wants to climb 9C for sure. I mean, who wouldn't? If you have the potential, you have to go try. I mean, why not? Also, no 9C has been repeated yet, so it's still up for grabs. So I think that would be pretty cool to see her like push herself outside of what she knows she's capable of now, because she definitely has way more in the tank. After watching her just absolutely smash Bib, I mean, I can't imagine her not thinking like, okay, I want to do something harder now.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. Well, I did just have a conversation with Adam about kind of like, why aren't we seeing 15D repeats? And he's like, well, just somebody's got to find the psych to get in there and do it. But a lot of people are just, you know, ultimately they're finding their own thing. They're bolting their own thing. And so I guess that's always an option for Janja as well, although that takes quite a bit of time.
Yeah. And it's so much harder to climb a sport route, just everything that it takes versus like a hard boulder. Like, I think that's why we're seeing like a lot of boulders getting sent in the V17 range or 16, 17 range, just because it takes so much more to climb a hard sport route. Like, so many more things need to align. The fitness is very different. The time investment is much higher. Like, it's just so much harder. So I think that finding the right person to also want to go do those repeats or those first ascents at, you know, the 15 plus range is special as well.
Oh, well, we'll be watching. She's also a hell of a boulder. So there's some 9A boulders out there she might be able to sink her teeth into one of these days if she gets the psych on that.
I went with her to Burden of Dreams, and we spent a couple days there, which was really fun.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah.
That's great.
It was really fun, like just watching her, you know, climb on it in horrible conditions, like horrible conditions, but still like, you know, figuring it out, seeing what's possible. Also enjoying that it was hard. Like, I think that it's fun for her when she's like really, really challenged. And that was really nice to watch on camera, because you get to see her like getting, you know, destroyed by something. That's great. Like, we want to see what it's like when like Janja falls, you know? So
totally.
that was really nice too.
Yeah. Again, the provenance of this podcast, in fact, was just like, we can all connect over struggle. I mean, for her, it's on a, you know, a 515C, and for me, it's maybe on a 13A or something like that. But, you know, we're trying our hardest. We're just trying our hardest. We're all on the same level, and it's really cool. I'm very excited to see what you're putting together. Is there a timeline on when we might see this film that you're working on?
Yeah, I think it's going to be this fall. It's definitely going to end up on Red Bull's YouTube channel, and it'll be like a mini feature, 20 to 30 minutes, about her journey with Bib and climbing her hardest route.
Dude, amazing. Cannot wait to see it. Congratulations to you and the whole gang over there. Thanks for putting such incredible content out there for us. This is just a joy to talk to you, Jon, man. I appreciate it. I look forward to having another conversation down the way.
Yeah, let's definitely do it again. I've got endless stories about crazy pro climbers doing insane stuff. So
Who's the hardest to work with? Who's the biggest diva?
Oof, biggest diva, man. Well, I mean,
in trouble.
Everybody actually is very similar in their intensity. Like, I think that's I mean, whether it's, you know, Hamish or Emily or Janja or Alex Honnold or Tommy Caldwell, everyone's really intense. Tommy might be actually the most chill. But everybody's like very intense when they're pushing themselves at their limit. Like, there's no time for like bullshit. Like, it's on, you know? And I love that. I love like when people put their hands in front of the camera and they're like, get away from me, you know, like I'm trying to do this thing. I think that's awesome. So, I mean, everybody has their own levels of diva, you know, it's pretty fun.
Oh, it's so cool. So cool for you to be just to have the front row seat for all of that, these historical moments, but also just like these historical personalities, man.
All right, y'all, that wraps things up with our friend Jon Glassberg. Jon, thanks for bringing the stories and the stoke. I love looking behind the scenes. I guess it's because I have a little bit of a background myself, maybe in production, but I just always loved that before I was, in the kind of filmmaking game or the podcast game. I would watch like DVD extra features of behind the scenes and all that. I just loved it so much. So yeah, Jon, thanks for bringing those really cool stories. Some never before heard stories from Janja on Bibliography. Frickin' rad. And by the way, if you want to hear more from Jon, we recorded a bonus episode and it goes on for quite a while. He answers some questions from listeners, and then we dive into some really cool topics. So like the dirty little secrets behind climbing films and what it takes to get the shot, kind of the quote unquote the shot, and are things manufactured and what happens if they need to create a shot and where do they draw the line? I found that very, very interesting. And that also dovetailed into this conversation of modern climbing. And can you even count an ascent these days without having uncut footage? I mean, certainly at the cutting edge, if we're talking about people doing the hardest boulders in the world or the hardest routes in the world, can we just take their word for it these days like we used to? Or is there a new benchmark? Is there a kind of new bar to prove, if you will, that something historic has happened? I found that very interesting. It might be a little bit polarizing. Another polarizing one that we talked about is like this kind of somewhat new trend of people doing like the hardest, raddest stuff and then just sitting on the news forever. And like, is there an obligation, if you will, to the climbing community that if you do something that's like really historic, to actually get that word out there and get the footage out there sooner than later? So we talk about Sean Bailey's historic ascent of Duality of Man, which is the hardest route in North America, 515D. And that news, like they sat on that news for like a year, I think, as they were putting the Mellow film tour together. And there's a few others as well. And so we explore that, another polarizing one potentially, but I thought a fascinating conversation. We get more behind the scenes stuff with Janja, which I just cannot get enough of because she's just kind of so elusive and so incredible. I mean, there's nobody like her and probably never will be anybody like Janja. And so we peel back on Janja a little bit more in the bonus conversation. And then we end with some like practical tips on how us weekend warriors, how us humans can do a better job of documenting our own climbs in the best way. So whether that's indoor or out, boulders or routes, Jon brings like the really practical, actionable tips on how to set up our cameras, what to use, how to frame it, so that if we're just watching our footage to get better at climbing, or we want to share rad stuff on social media or with friends and family or whatever, that we can do a better job of that. Oh, that was my computer reminding me that it's about time to take my kids to their music lessons. So why don't I wrap this up? All of that stuff, by the way, is over on Patreon and Apple subscriptions for free for a 7-day free trial. So if you want to dip into nearly now 200 hours of bonus content and pro clinics and all of that stuff with some of the biggest names in the sport, a lot of people that Jon's worked with, Alex Honnold and Tommy Caldwell, Ethan Pringle, so many more. It's all over there and you can try it for free, no obligation. And if you don't like it, you just quit. If you do like it, stick around and it helps me to keep making the show, which I appreciate. I'm making it right now on my Saturday morning, right before I take my kids to their music lessons. So your support really means a lot to me. A couple other ways you can support me is by supporting the brands that partner with the Struggle Climbing Show. And I only work with brands that I genuinely use and love and have a history with. So I want you to know that like my ads and like the endorsements that I give are like very, very genuine. And many of these brands I've been partnered with prior to ever even starting a podcast. So not partnered with, but like just been like a customer of. So yeah, if you use my code when you buy their stuff, that just lets them know that you heard about their cool stuff on my show. And then maybe they'll keep partnering with me so I can keep making this show. So I'll put some links in the show notes down there for you. And then another really cool way, and I think very valuable way for you to support me, is by trying the Intentional Climber app, which is an app that I helped to develop. I've been using it for a long time now, like in beta phase, and it's now out there. And we've got users in 29 countries. It's getting better and better with your all's feedback. We've got a huge new, like, really cool feature update that's coming out. But anyway, that's free to use for 14 days. So you can just see if it's your jam or not. You could load a 6 weeks to Stronger Fingers program from Coach Chris Hampton. frequent guest of the show, Chris Hampton, and also the founder of Power Company Climbing. That's an incredible 6-week program. It's a $100 program right there that you get for free just for signing up and trying the app. If you use code STRUGGLE, you get that, and you get a discount on the app if you stick with it. But yeah, just try it out. I mean, if you're like serious about improving as a climber, whether it's through your training, your outdoor performance, your reflection, we've got all those tools in there. And I really do think it'll help you to get better faster. It helped me to go from V4 to V8 in a year. And I was very intentional every single day. I used this app and it made a huge difference for me. So yeah, anyway, you could check that out and that helps to support me as well. And also I think it'll make you a better climber. So that's cool. Okay, that's good. So that's, I got to get these kids some music. Oh, I'll do a 30-second like update of my climbing. I said I'd do an update on my climbing. Look, there was a Plog episode a week ago that did like a super nerdy deep dive into what I've been doing, like for my training and all that stuff. So if you really want to dive deep, check that out. But I will tell you about this, this climbing day that I had yesterday. My fingers are still wrecked from it, but I got on a route next to, my buddy was working a route. I got on a route next to it that I thought was going to kind of be a bit of a choss pile, to be perfectly honest. And it ended up being an absolute banger. It was so good and so high quality, the movement was, and at 85 degrees and like 80% humidity. It was a struggle enough at 511D where I went for the on-site and got way farther than I thought I would. I was just like hucking blind moves and I just managed to keep sticking them. But then I came down and rested up and gave it like a real good quality go. And it all felt like it was going pretty good until in the middle of the crux, I got stung by a bee in my nose, like right on my, like the side of my nose, the bridge of my nose. I was like, that's a first. I mean, that never happened before. I called down to my Blair and I was like, Jimmy, I just got stung by a bee on my face. And he called up and he said, use it, which I thought was like the perfect answer. And I did use it. I channeled that bee sting to make 2 more moves and then fall off the route. Not the bee's fault. My forearms were just like absolutely wrecked. But that was a first. Has that ever happened to you? Ever been stung by a bee on a route? I've definitely climbed through like wasps and bees and snakes and all sorts of stuff, but I've never actually been attacked. And I'm sure the bee was just like defending his or her home. Are bees male and female? They must be male and female, but like the bees that like go out and sting. I don't know. I don't think it was a queen. If it was a queen, I would have gotten stung by like 1,000 others. So anyway, just a bee who got me in my nose, and I lowered off and just pressed an ice cold beer against it. And I thought to myself, like, this is it. This is the stuff. This is why I climb. I love to be outside. My buddy calling up and making me laugh in the middle of the crux when I got stung on the face was great. And also just this like climbing in suboptimal conditions, if you will, which I'm reframing. And now I'm thinking, no, this is actually optimal conditions, right? Like it's August, it's 85 degrees, it's high humidity, and I am doing exactly what I want to be doing, which is practicing movement on rock, because I can't rest on any of these holds. I have to keep moving. I have to work on speed, work on really good technique, find heel hooks and heel toe cams and drop knees and things that I wouldn't consider would be a strength of mine. At least things that I certainly want to be improving, like that conversation I had with Eric Hurst about energy leaks and kind of improving the energy leaks before I worry about improving my fitness. So this is the time to do that. When it's really nice out and crisp, I want to go out and like try the hardest stuff and work on projects. No, now is the time. Now is optimal to go out and become a better climber and also just have fun. So that was that day. I got stung by the bee and also had fun and also learned a lot. And my forearms are trashed and my computer doesn't recognize my fingerprint. And I feel really good about all of that. So, okay, that was my little anecdote from climbing yesterday. I hope you're climbing indoors or out, getting after it. And you can hit me up anytime. I'd love to hear from you. Hope you're having an awesome week. I'll talk to you soon.